Why use pretotyping? In this lesson, we'll cover why most innovation processes fail, why validating ideas is key, reducing friction with the 10x model, and how pretotyping helps to reframe your innovation process. So at this point, you might be thinking, there are so many innovation methodologies out there. How does pretotyping work with design thinking or agile or human-centered design? Why bother with another whole methodology? There are broadly three early steps that happen in organizations, and one of them wastes a lot of money. The first thing we do is we have some sort of discovery process where we go off and find a bunch of customer problems. Typically, we'll use human-centered design to figure out what those are. Then we get together and we explore all the possible solutions that there may be to a particular problem. And we often use design thinking as one of the methods to do this. And then we take an educated guess to decide which solution to develop further, loosely called validation. And this is where the danger lies. Developing an idea based on what was most popular, and that's where we waste valuable time and money. In theory, all innovation processes go through some variation of this: idea discovery, validation, build, incubate, and scale. And that's great. But in practice, it doesn't work. This is for a few reasons. First, we often skim over the validation phase and enter the build phase quickly without enough data to know that the idea we've chosen will actually work. So that's why we turn to pretotyping. Because human-centered design and design thinking and agile and all those other methodologies are all vulnerable to allowing us to skip the validation process. Pretotyping can work along all these other methodologies, but the power of pretotyping is that it focuses on not doing stuff. It focuses on testing and experimenting and failing fast, early, and cheaply, so that you don't build a product or service you don't know will work. Pretotyping is a method we use to ensure that we don't skip the validation phase in our rush to build something. Now, the other part of why innovation processes fail is because we don't approach innovation with the customer in mind. So we build something that doesn't make the experience significantly better for the customer. Companies and innovation teams are really good at idea discovery. So we can do all the fun things like run hack days and do technology scans and listen to our customers. And we brainstorm internally with all our smart people and many other ways. And we generate lots and lots of ideas. After this idea generation phase, our shortlisting process is basically us all standing in a room, rubbing our chins and looking important and clever, and then picking an idea. And in doing this, we skip the validation phase because we're essentially guessing, based on our opinion of our ideas. But we don't and can't know what will work. We're simply not the customer, and we don't know how the customer will respond in the real world. So we guess at an idea and fall in love with it, and lobby internally to get lots of money and funding and resources and political capital behind this idea so that we can go off and build it. Then we fight our way into a roadmap, and eventually a year down the line we've got something built. Not sure if this sounds familiar to you, but we see a lot of this. Then what I often see is that the idea that companies have guessed will work becomes the product. We skip the validation part and go straight to building it and try and roll it out as fast as possibly can. This means that the incubate and scale phases are often compromised or never even reached because the idea was never validated in the first place and it turns out to be a dud idea. Skipping the validation phase is why a lot of ideas and products fail. And this is because innovation is about discovery, not about building things. It's about figuring out what customers need and want and what they respond to by testing instead of guessing. Innovation is about discovering our way to a solution. We know what the problem is, but we don't know what the answer is. Pretotyping takes out the guesswork and allows us to innovate by generating data using this validation process, so that when we come to build something, we know it will work. A way to reframe the innovation process is to ask, how can we discover solutions that will make our customers' experience 10 times better? Now, why 10 times? Why 10x? I know 10x is a buzzword. It's boring, and everyone says 10x, 10x, 10x. But all it really means is, how do we reduce friction for our customer by 10 times? This is the framing that a company like Google uses. And if you look at very successful products in the market, all they're doing is taking friction out of the system. A great example of this is Uber. I know everyone uses Uber as an example, but we do it because it's a great example. All Uber did was look at the taxi industry and ask, where are the friction points? There are two very obvious ones. The first one is, where the hell is my cab? And the second one is, I don't want to mess around with payment at the end of the ride. So Uber just optimized around that and used some clever technology and capability and funding to take friction out of the system. So this is a great example of the 10x approach. And if you look around you at good companies and examples, you'll see this everywhere. Every single problem is currently being solved in some shape or form, even if really badly. And this is really important. If you're not changing the customer's experience significantly, 10 times better or 5 times better, why would customers switch to your product or service? Remember, everybody loves innovation, but everybody hates change. That's why we talk about techniques like pretotyping. When you have early stage ideas, you want to be thinking about reducing friction and the 10x model. Pretotyping is an innovation model that incorporates these ideas into the idea development and validation process, so that by the time you come to creating and offering a new product and service, you know it will significantly reduce friction and improve your customer's experience. To recap, most innovation processes include validation in theory, but really skip it in practice. Innovation is about discovery, not about building things. All problems are already solved in some way. Innovation is about significantly improving your customer's experience. And pretotyping is a way to reframe innovation and build this 10x mindset into your process. In the next lesson, we'll learn why killing off your ideas is the key to innovation and see how real companies use pretotyping in their innovation processes.